Camino rest days, what are they? Why do you need them? Where do you take them? It's a very common question, coming right up. So there's quite a bit of discussion online about Camino rest days. Now, if you're planning your first Camino, you might be wondering, what are Camino rest days? What are they for? How many do I need? Where do I take them? So let's cover all of that, and then I'll tell you how I sort of plan my rest days at the end. So it depends a little bit on how far you are planning to walk. So if you are walking, let's say the minimum 100 kilometers or something, you probably don't need to plan in a rest day because you might be walking 4, 5, 6 days. So you should be able to do that without a rest day. You need, I find I need, and I think a lot of people find they need, Camino rest days when you're walking longer distances. So, for example, if you're walking the Camino Frances from Saint-Jean, you're going to be walking 500 kilometers, 800 Ks. A lot of people do that in 30 to 34 days. I do it in 40 days. If I was going to be walking 40 days, day after day after day after day, I wouldn't cope. Your body breaks down after a while. Things start to hurt, and your body will tell you. You'll know when you need a rest day. And I generally find I plan about 1 day in 7, maybe 1 day in 10 for a rest day. I find early on, in a Camino, I can go for about 10 days. I'm not pushing myself, but I'm quite happy to go for about 9 or 10 days until I'm starting to get some sort of severe aches and pains and feel like I need a rest. After that, I'm finding I need a rest about every 7 days. Now, the only problem is I don't like to stop walking, and I think a lot of people find this. So I'll talk about how to cope with that in a second. What to do, or what to do on a rest day, where to take your rest days. Generally, what I do on a rest day is I'll try to stop in a reasonable sized town, something with a little bit of sightseeing. I'll relax, I'll sleep in. I won't be doing too much walking. I'm wearing my alternative footwear, just sort of shuffling around, doing a little bit of sightseeing, that kind of thing. Not walking any sort of great distances. I generally do plan my rest days prior to the Camino, but where I take them is very much dependent on how I feel. So, for example, on my very first Camino Frances, where did I stop? Burgos was way too early for a rest day. I definitely had a rest day in Leon. Where else did I have one? I had a couple. I'm trying to think where they were. But what I found was that rather than actually stop, sometimes I just walk a really short day. So picture this, you've been walking 10 days or so, you're really starting to ache a bit, your body's saying, look, I need to have a break. You can either take a complete day off and rest, and it's lovely to get a hotel room with a bath or something. Maybe find a swimming pool, go swimming, go for a massage. Another thing is that, like, in my head, I just want to keep going. I don't find I want to stay in the big towns or anything. I get restless, I want to be out on the trail. So sometimes, instead of having a rest day, I'll just walk a really short day, maybe 10 kilometers or something like that. And it's almost like having a rest day. So I might set off late in the morning, really take my time, just walk a short distance and then stop. So I'm still sort of making headway on my Camino, but I'm kind of having a rest day as well. So that's another way that I do it. So I do plan them out. So my next Camino is going to be the Via de la Plata. I'm taking it really slow, like 55 days or something. I've selected, I think my first rest day after about 10 days, and then a rest day every week or so. I've kind of picked towns where I think I'd like to spend a day. Towns like Salamanca and places like that, where there's a lot to see. But quite where I take the rest day will be totally dictated about how I feel, how my fitness is going. If I'm in the middle of nowhere in a tiny village and I'm really hurting, I'll take a break there. And I think, that's the thing. Don't be too rigid about, oh, I've got to get to Burgos, or I've got to get to Leon, for my rest day. When you need the rest day, take that rest day. Take a very short day, because your body does need to rest and kind of regenerate before you get going again. So how many to plan? Yeah, I tend not to plan them in terms of distance, but in terms of days. So very roughly every 8 or 9 days I'll plan a rest day. I'll also throw in a couple of extra days. You may be very much under time pressure and not able to do this, but I throw in a couple of extra days just for the unexpected, and it gives me a couple of days buffer at the end if necessary. I'm flying a really long distance. It's a 22-hour flight for me to go to the Camino and back again. Not always easy to change return flights, so I leave myself a little bit of a buffer in case things go wrong and I need a couple of extra days. But do consider rest days. It's interesting, and I don't want to be sort of ageist here or anything like that. The people, no, it's too much of a generalization. Let me put it this way. On my last Camino, by the time we got to Burgos, quite a few people that we'd met dropped out at Burgos or had dropped out prior to Burgos, and most of them were under 40. A lot of them were under 30. So it's a little bit of a mindset thing. I've said this before, don't start out too quick. Don't try and walk too far, too fast in the early days of the Camino. Ease into it, let your body get used to it, and do think about those rest days. So once you're into the groove, expect that you're going to have rest days. If you don't need them, that's great. Just walk short days or whatever, but I would plan some in just to be safe. So there we go. That's what rest days are, why they're very useful, and hopefully that's been of some help. Do comment down below if you've walked Caminos yourself. Do you plan in rest days? Do you end up taking them where you expected? What's your sort of ratio of rest days? And I'd be very interested to hear that. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.